Hey, Armand here with your forecast for the nodes of the moon on the Aries Libra axis, 2023 to 2025. Well, middle of 2023, right around July 17th of 2023 until about mid-January of 2025. Now, the nodes of the moon will be in this sign of Aries. Well, they'll be in the signs of Aries and Libra for about 18 months. They spend about 18 months in each sign. They have a 19-year cycle altogether, which means if you look back about 19 years ago, you'll find, a little hint for yourself. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to do some of the generalizations about the nodes in these signs, and then we're going to go through for each sign specifically. I'll timestamp them down on the bottom so that you know where to go if you want to look just to your sign. Now, let's talk about the nodes of the moon. First of all, there's two of them. That's why they're nodes and not node. We have the north node and the south node, and they're opposite each other in the zodiac. And the nodes retrograde through the zodiac. They retrograde through the zodiac. And actually, they wobble retrograde. They don't smoothly retrograde. They wobble retrograde, which is why I say about July 17th of 2023, they get in there. It depends how you look at it. I look at the true node, and that's the point at which it crosses the axis to begin with. They retrograde, which means that they were recently in Taurus and Scorpio, and now they're in Aries and Libra, and they'll go into Pisces and Virgo. So they go backwards through the zodiac. If you follow the north or the south node, you'll see it's going backwards through the zodiac. And the nodes are opposite each other. So the nodes are the point where, from our perspective on Earth, the orbit of the sun and the orbit of the moon cross each other. When the moon crosses the north node each month, it goes north of the sun's orbit, and when it crosses the south node each month, it goes south of the sun's orbit. So that gives you a little bit of the astronomical basis for it, which it's good to have it in mind. It's good to know that this is the sun and the moon. So let's think about what the nodes mean. Now, they have a specific meaning in your natal chart. That's a little different. We're talking here about the transiting nodes, the nodes in the sky, and they'll affect us a little bit differently. But the moon is the collective. In this context, it's the collective. It's the sort of tidal movement of the collective, the way we find things that we're concerned about, interested in, working on. And it's the way that we approach these things and our sort of emotional mindset as a collective. And you really can see these tides. I mean, you really can see these tides. The nodes of the moon aren't the only thing, not even the most obvious thing, I think. But Neptune has a lot to do with our fascinations, and Uranus, where we're innovating and stuff like that. Saturn, where we're trying to make up some rules. But the nodes of the moon give us a lot of practical stuff. Now, that's the tidal movement that is associated with the moon is crossing the axis or the orbit of the sun. And the sun is vitality. It's what life is about. It's where we get energized. So the nodes of the moon it's a little bit where we're concerned. There's a sort of practical emphasis to the nodes of the moon, though. It's something, we're working on. Much more so than we're just interested in it, fascinated by it, and so on. For example, when the nodes of the moon were in Taurus and Scorpio recently, there were supply chain issues, very Taurian kind of matter, sort of Taurus Scorpio matter. Banking was a big issue. Pluto and Capricorn had a lot to do with that, but that's another issue. And also, too, it's a little hard to look at because Uranus is in Taurus, and recently Jupiter's been in there, so it's a little bit of it. There's a lot of stuff going on in Taurus, so we have a lot on our plate when it comes to this stuff. But it gives you a little bit of an idea about the kind of things that we focus on in the collective. So the north node is going to go into Aries, going to retrograde from 29 degrees down to 1 degree of the sign over the course of the next 18 months. And What does that tell us? Okay, well, it means we should look towards Aries kinds of things. Assertiveness, individuality, standing up for yourself, going your own way, independence, right? Competition, these types of things. Whereas the South Node in Libra is speaking about things that we want to be a little careful about. We want to move away from. Libra is a very rule-oriented sign, consideration of the other, lots of debate about what we should do, lots of negotiations and diplomacy, but potentially not actually winding up coming to any conclusions or acting. Aries is action. Libra, we can act, but we're gonna sort of hash things out a bit. So we're speaking towards a more active, forward-moving kind of energy when it comes to the nodes, as opposed to the sort of endless debate, following rules, and so on. Now, maybe you're saying, Armand, don't we have enough of this Aries stuff around? Don't we have enough people going out and asserting themselves and being kind of martial about things? Don't we have enough people going their own way and not really being considerate of the rules, not really being Yeah, you're right. Well, I say you're right, but I said that you were thinking that. It is certainly the case that we have some of the more problematic aspects of this showing up lately. But let me ask, have you been asserting yourself? Have you been going your own way, doing your own thing? Have you been exercising what I call creative selfishness, right? I'm going to do what I need to do for myself, right? Like others may not be so happy about it, but this is what I need to do. This is going to make me feel better. Remember the orbit of the sun and the moon here. Where's my vitality? What am I feeling for? So have you been doing that? I know people have been going off the rails and all that sort of stuff lately, but maybe the response needs to be a little bit less discussion, Libra, maybe a little bit less just sort of taking in and sort of chewing on it, Libra, and a little bit more acting, a little bit more making decisions. We've all been through the pandemic over the last few years, and there were lots of very necessary restrictions and lots of rules and so on that we had to deal with. And I don't really feel that we've completely come away from, we've come away from the rules. That's not an issue. We've come away from almost all the rules. I'm not so sure that our mindset has changed all that much, though. I think we're still a little bit, some of it's just, post-COVID stress disorder. Yeah, some of it is that, but some of it is maybe we've gotten ourselves into a little bit of a morass. We're not really kind of ready to move forward with things. And the North Node in Aries is saying, no, you're going to have stuff to do. You got to move. You got to move. You can't sort of spin your wheels. Now, I'm describing Libra in kind of negative terms, right? I'm talking about it as being a little bit too much debate, too much negotiation, not enough action. I would throw out the term passive aggressive and something like that. But I'm not saying these things because that's the nature of Libra. I'm saying this is the potentially problematic side of Libra. Right. This is something that every sign has a couple of sand traps built into it. And that's the Libran sand. Well, those are the Libran sand traps. And so the South Node tends to pull us towards the sand traps rather than the higher aspect of the sign. Whereas the North Node in Aries tends to pull us towards the better aspect of that sign. The healthy competition, the healthy self-assertion, the healthy selfishness, the creative selfishness. It pulls us towards the better aspect of that if we're ready to listen. So we have to sort of keep it in balance. We're not talking about, this is the way things always are. We're looking at the fact that the North Node is pulling us towards one side of Aries, while the South Node is pulling us towards one side of Libra. And we're all kind of dealing with that. So I think that this period of time, we should look at it as being a period where we need to be active. We need to get moving. We need to recognize that this is not, we can't be subject to endless debates. And Libra, because it is so much about the rule and formalities, because it is, it's the sign of justice, has a lot to do with laws. Some of these things have gotten a bit much, right? And I'm not I'm not an extremist, but some of these things have gotten a bit much. We have spent a little too much time in consideration of the other. We spent a little bit too much time following some rules. We've decided we need to make up rules for everything. We need to have laws for everything. Now we need to sort of pull away. And the way that you pull away is not to, fight that whole system and all that type of thing. It'll just, whatever. That's not our business, right? Doing your own thing without too much consideration from others, without consideration of how the significant other is going to take it, the friends, your community, and so on. You know what? You don't even need to make a big deal of it. Again, we're not looking to necessarily, maybe we're not looking to necessarily make a stand and say, this is what I'm doing and this is what you just do your own thing. Just do your own thing without getting engaged in a big argument. And if somebody gives you a bit of an argument, well, then it's time to maybe stand up a little bit more. But you don't necessarily have to. All right. One important point about the nodes is that they often function as access points. And as we go through the forecast, you'll see me talking about that quite a bit. We often find new people coming in where the north node is, and we sometimes find people going out where the south node is. That they just, the cast of characters in life changes a little bit. And so that's one of the focuses we'll really look at in each of the signs as we go along. Now, sometimes when I talk about planets going into a sign or something like that, I'll say, well, pay attention, Jupiter's going into Taurus, pay attention to your sun sign and your ascendant. Saturn, look at your ascendant mostly. In this case, because of the nature of the nodes, I suggest that you look at your sun sign. Moon sign? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to revisit that after we have more data over the course of the next 18 months. But I think sun sign is the way we want to look. So if you're an Aries, this is for you. And Aries, you get the north node right there as your primary energy. It's in your sign. It pulls the energy towards you, and it really says, you gotta be an Aries, right? So all of those things that I listed at the beginning, competitiveness, self-assertion, Aries is a great sign for going its own way. It is really, it's a bit of a hermit potentially, not necessarily, but a bit potentially. And if you need to go your own way and sort of do things on your own, that's okay. The drag is from Libra. You're really embodying this energy most directly, and that is the opinions of others, just in general, the opinions of others and how they feel about it. Well, this is time for you to be an Aries and do your Aries kind of thing. So get to it. Taurus. Now, you've had the north node in your house for the last 18 months. And as I said earlier in the video, you've got Jupiter in for at least half the time that the nodes are in Aries, and you've certainly got Uranus in your house for in your sign for the duration. So you've got a lot of stuff going on, and this move of the north node into Aries pulls it into your 12th house. Now that seems a little odd, but one thing that we're always looking at access, right? And so access comes in the form of unexpected help from unexpected places, right? Unexpected help from unexpected places is where you're likely to feel this. Now, there's not a lot you can do about that, obviously enough, right? This is not something that you can work with all that easily because it is unexpected help from unexpected places. Okay. The South Node then is going to be in your 6th house, and that would mean potentially giving too much time to folks that are kind of, let's just say, difficult, right? You don't want to spend time with difficult folks. I mean, you're a Taurus. You don't want to spend time with difficult folks anyway. But there's the potential there with that 6th house that, maybe a coworker or something like that is giving you a little bit of a pain in the butt. Don't spend too much energy on it. This is a great placement for you, Taurus, to get into spirituality, to have a good meditation routine or something like that. So I would really strongly suggest looking at that, and you'll very likely find people who will help you with that. Go on retreat. Just make sure there's good food there, because, Taurus. Gemini, this is an 11th house placement for you. So a couple of different sides of it. One would be friendships and groups that you're part of, or would like to be part of. And it's saying, go connect with those. You may find that you have new friends, and you may find that some of your old-timey besties are maybe not so completely crazy about that. But it is a thing to go forward towards when you say, who do I really want to be hanging out with? Who really shares my worldview? Or, what is the thing I want to do in the world, and who are the people that I can do it with? Get active, get out there and, work at the animal shelter or something along those lines, or, or the food bank or something, if that's your thing. Or, perhaps it would be something a little bit more artistic, or even something having to do with sports or something like that, exercise. Get out there and connect with people. And again, the drag may come from folks who are saying, we want you to spend time with us. We're not, where are you going? Why do you have to be out there on Wednesday nights doing that? That was the night we used to go to happy hour, and now you're doing something else. This is the kind of thing that you might have to put up a little bit of a fight about, and that fight could be internal. You don't have to tell them, like, go to hell, I'm gonna go out and do this thing. You say, like, this is what I'm doing. We'll have to find another time for happy hour, and if you don't, maybe that'll be okay. This also is a placement that pulls you towards your long-term goals. And so whatever your vision is of where you want to be, this is a good opportunity to start working towards it. Again, as with new friends and associations, when it comes to long-term goals, you're very likely to find people who will help you in the project. So that's a really good positive thing. Cancer, this is a 10th house transit for you. It has a lot to do with career. And so very likely we'll find people who will benefit you in that area of life, right? So that you can find, someone who gives you a leg up in your career, or who offers you an opportunity someplace. You may find, on the other hand, it may simply be the case that, you get a new supervisor at work, and your old one departs, and that could be either really good, or it could be a little bit of a challenge. I think it would probably be pretty good if if all we had to think about, if the only concern we had was the nodes of the moon, I would think that it would be pretty good. It may not be quite so simple as that, but it's a pretty positive placement in terms of career. Good place to put your energy. Helpful folks come in. The other side of it is that the South Node then is a 4th house placement for you. And with the South Node in your 4th house, then it becomes a matter that maybe you've got a little bit of resistance from the family. Maybe you've got a little bit of resistance from your home or your community to whatever you're doing out in public in your professional life. So there could be a little bit of a pull that way. It could simply be, and it probably would most likely be, just the the classic old, I'm really on fire at work. I got a lot of good opportunities going on here, but that's kind of costing me in terms of my home life, and I'm not sure that I'm really keeping up. But it's hard to juggle those two balls at the same time. And it could be that kind of thing for you. You might find that when it comes to family and like, local comfort zone people, some folks leave. I'm not saying that they're going to die. Maybe, people do, but it very likely, someone will move away, or, you could just sort of lose touch with some of these people. A little bit of a loss there. And again, it's sort of pulling you backwards a bit. And so, the good news comes more in the area of career. You've had some good career opportunities as a sun sign. I don't know how much this matters for all of you, but you had Jupiter in your 10th house recently, and now you've got the nodes going through there. So you're kind of being pulled out into the world, Cancer. It's a little bit of a different vibe than the typical Cancerian feel, perhaps. Leo. Pack your bags, Leo, because this is a 9th house transit for you, and it really favors travel. But we don't have to be quite so literal about it. I mean, if you ask me anything, be literal about it, travel, but it's exploration. And that exploration can be philosophical, it can be belief systems, it can be spiritual systems. It'd be a great time to learn astrology. Give me a call. It's a good time to take a yoga class, or do something that is out of your usual realm of things, big picture stuff. Great opportunity here. This is a fire sign, and you're a fire sign, so it's really working very, very well for you. But get out, get moving, and if you don't get out and get moving, then explore internally. So this is a really great placement for you. You're very likely to come across folks that are going to be very helpful. I would say at a kind of optimistic extreme, or maybe it's not even that optimistic. It's the sort of like encounter with the guru type of thing, but probably like an encounter with people who can at least put you on the track and give you some helpful stuff when it comes to going forward. If you're looking at higher education or anything like that, this is a very, very good time for you, Leo. Got about 18 months, make the most of it. Virgo, this is an 8th house transit. Now, a lot of what I said for Leo, did you watch what I said for Leo? A lot of what I said for Leo goes for you too, but it's not so much about simple exploration. It's, going deep. Okay, so this would be, as an 8th house transit, this would have a lot to do with things like therapy or shamanic journeying. It's about the experiential stuff, right? And again, you're likely to find people who can help you a great deal with this. This is where the nodes can be especially helpful, because not only are you enthusiastic for something, not only are you busy looking at a particular topic and getting sort of enthralled with it, but people come around who will help you with it. Okay, so you could likely find some people that could be quite helpful. On a more, let's call it mundane level, this would be a very good placement, and you might again find helpful people if you need to, let's say, for example, get a mortgage or a loan or something like that. Good debt is if there is such a thing. The drag for you, Virgo, might be in the area of finances. And that could be, well, do I go shamanic journey? But it costs so much to go to Peru for the ayahuasca retreat. It could be something like that. It could also be that, partners and friends and others are saying, well, what are you doing that sort of stuff for? Or, if you're looking to get a mortgage, it could also be somebody saying, well, I don't know if this is the right time for that. And whether or not it's the right time is a whole separate consideration worth paying attention to as well. Libra, you have the South Node in your sign, so you get the quintessential experience of the South Node. So what you need to do is be aware of some of the more difficult sides of your sign. And, we would have to break it down by the decans, the 10 degree, 10 degree, and 10 degrees of Libra and all other considerations. But I'm not going to do that. So we're only going to talk about it in very broad strokes. But the too much following the rules, too much emphasis on decorum, too much paying attention to the others and their needs, right? Too much of those things. Those are all good things. Those are all good things, but we don't want to overdo them at the expense of self. That's the tricky thing. Now, the North Node then is in your opposite sign, and that potentially that would one really optimistic way of looking at that would be it would be very good in terms of partnership. You know, whether your existing partner or a new partner, somebody comes in and that's a great experience. But that person is pulling you towards the Aries side of thing. They're pulling you towards self-assertion, maybe a little competition, activity, a little selfishness even. It's odd, you know, you have a partner, but the partner is saying, look, this is the way you take care of yourself by yourself. So that's what's going on for you. Very likely you'll find someone who helps to sort of pull you forward, right? Give you that Aries energy of moving forward in your life. It could potentially be someone who is in competition with you. Let's make it kind of a nice, the nice story would be, let's say that you are playing tennis, you know, you like to play tennis, and you find a really good opponent. They're just really very good and they really challenge you and they bring up your skill level. You know, less optimistically, oh, and just by analogy, you could have a real opponent, you know, somebody that, you know, you really are having a knockdown drag out with, maybe even a legal thing. And again, they may be awful, but they can really ignite in you that spark, that Aries spark that gets you to be a little bit more of the fighter that you need to be at this time. So, you know, sometimes the great teachers are the ones that are really awful. And we just call them teachers because it makes us feel better about encountering awful people. Scorpio, you've got the South Node out of your sign, and that's good. It's gone into your 12th house when we look at things, when we look at things that way. And so, that's a little that's a little bit of a question there. It seems like you might have a little bit of a drain from sources that you're not quite aware of. You know what though? The North Node is going into your 6th house. It suggests work, right? Good opportunities at work, good opportunities at work, good opportunities for work and service. Again, if you wanted to, you know, give away some of your time towards a good cause, that would be excellent. I feel you should do something with animals or food, but you know, that's just me. It's not because of you, Scorpio. It's just what I think is good. And there's lots of other good things too. Also, health. This isn't about illness. This is not about illness. This is about health. These 18 months are a great opportunity for you to pay more attention to your health in terms of sensible exercise, sensible diet, and, you know, that Aries energy, you'd be surprised, is really good for restriction. You know, if you need to cut back on things, if you need to say no to things, that Aries energy is really good because Aries can go its own way and do its own thing. So it's a good time to focus on health and well-being, you know. So you can go to the spa. I suppose I should say gym, but you know, go to the spa or go to the gym or whatever it is. Don't overdo it. It's not about overdoing it, but it is about putting some effort into this area of life. Sagittarius. What a great placement this is for you because it's a 5th house placement and it says creativity. It says do your thing, right? And it's Aries in your 5th house. This is like begin something new. Venus is retrograde right in the summer of 2023. So, but begin something new, creative energies, get started with something. Follow your passion, whatever that 5th house passion is for you. That could be, you know, it could be creative stuff, but don't let my mindset influence yours. It could be sports, it could be whatever that thing is, you know, but do that thing that enlivens you, that thing that says, yeah, this is why I'm walking around on the planet, because this is so great. This is wonderful stuff. But again, you'll find people that will help you. And the other thing that is really tremendous about this is that it may, if you're looking for somebody, this might be really helpful when it comes to finding somebody that could be a romantic kind of partner for you. So Sagittarius, have at it. Capricorn, the Aries North Node is a fourth house placement for you. Now, you're Capricorn, and there's a lot of that getting out in the world and doing stuff kind of energy going on. You've got Jupiter for a lot of time and Uranus for even more time in your fifth house, which is a very good placement for you for getting things going in terms of creativity and all of these things. You've got Pluto coming back and forth on the edge of your sign for the next year or so. And that kind of asks you, how Capricornian you want to be. But what we have here with this Aries North Node placement says, you got to build your home base. You got to build security. That's what we're looking at. Yeah, I mean, family is great, or whatever that thing is, that it could come out that way. But basically, more basically than any particular, even something as particular as family, home base. Build your home base. Don't let career and others' opinions about your career. Libra, don't forget, we have Libra up there. Others' opinions about your career, other ideas, even if, a lot of times others' opinions are right inside of your head. Don't let others' opinions about what you should be doing be the main influence on you. Okay. Because there could be the sense of like, I've almost got the next thing in career. I've almost got the next step. I almost got the promotion. I almost getting the raise. You could use the raise, right? I'm almost there. Put your effort there as you need to, but make sure you're building a home base, building a secure foundation for yourself. That's going to be important for you. That's something that you want to pay a lot of attention to. So don't let career drain you, and career can drain you in terms of what's actually happening, but it can also drain you in terms of others' opinions or your internalized version of others' opinions. Aquarius, this is the third house placement for you. So, it's great. If you need to buy a car, it's probably pretty good. Getting around the local neighborhood and things like that, all favored by this, connections with siblings. But what I'm thinking really is learning new skills. Not so much ninth house stuff, not so much those ninth house things like, the overarching philosophical systems and stuff like that. Much more a matter of learning particular skills. If you want to take a cooking course, if you want to learn how to do anything that is really a matter of learning the skills one step at a time. This would be a good time for that. Could be skills that further your career. It might be taking a course. Sometimes the certificate courses that once you have that, then you can take on more work and perhaps get a promotion and stuff like that. It's that kind of thing though. Or if you just want to put another tool in your toolbox for whatever you're doing at work or at home, it's good. So this is a pretty good placement for that. The drain, as I said, the drain comes more from the ninth house, and that could be a little bit, it would most likely, it's not that bad to tell you the truth, but it could be a sort of dispersing yourself in terms of having a lot of different ideas and not really picking one. And finally, we get to Pisces. And what does Pisces have to look at? This is a second house placement, so it has a lot to do with finances, it has a lot to do with your possessions. And it says, you know what, Pisces, this is a good time for you to be paying some attention to your finances, paying attention to your money. You can find people that will help. That's good. But it's a good time for you to say, okay, I need to know what I'm doing in terms of money. There's a couple of really good reasons for this. The first is the North Node is in your second house, and that's a good time for you to be paying attention to those things. The second is that Saturn, when he leaves Pisces in 2025, is going to come into your second house. And at that point in time, he's going to say, you really got to consolidate. We got to now we're really got to look at the books. So the North Node is saying, let's get a start on the finances. Let's get a start on figuring out finances now. Saturn is going to be a little bit less suggestive. He's going to come in and say, you got to deal with this. So it would be a good idea to get a head start on things, if at all possible. And you would have help. This is helping you. You could actually build up some finances with the North Node in the second house. The caveat, to throw out a caveat here, and given the price of caveat, I wouldn't throw it out too often. The caveat here is that the 8th house is got the South Node. And here you want to be careful about taking on too much debt of any kind. You have to be very careful about it. There is such a thing as good debt, even with the South Node in your 8th house, for sure. But you want to be careful that you're not overextending yourself, right? You're overextending and overexpending yourself, right? You want to be careful. If you're in a relationship, you want to make sure that your partner's money, to the extent that your finances are blended, you want to keep an eye on that situation. Not in a bad way, but I mean, you want to know what's going on. That's kind of the crucial thing here. You want to know what's going on in the area of finances. But don't go too far into debt. Don't play fast and loose with your tax returns. Don't deal with insurance companies on anything but the most up and up level. I'm no fan of those guys, but this is not a time when you want to sort of try to take advantage of any kind of situation or anything like that. So you want to be very, it's actually a very Libran thing to be very appropriate and follow all the rules and stuff like that. But this is the rules can turn around and bite you if you're not careful with it. So you're building up finances, pushing forward in this area of life, but not doing so on anything but the most up and up possible level. Okay, there we have it, a big summary of the nodes in Aries and Libra for each sign and in general. And we'll see you for the monthly forecast, the weekly forecast, and other things soon.